I'm sharing 10 tips for how to feed a crowd without losing your mind. If you are hosting a large gathering for the holidays, or if you are attending a large gathering and you're gonna be in charge of meal prepping, then you need to watch this video. Spent the Thanksgiving holiday week with my husband's side of the family, and it probably won't surprise you to know that I was put in charge of meals to feed our crowd of 15 people. And I'm not talking about like the flagship Thanksgiving dinner or holiday feast. I just mean the regular dinners that we ate as a group each evening. And even though this was not my first rodeo, I've done this a few times, and if you've watched my channel before, I've made a couple of videos along these lines. I'll be sure to leave those linked in the description box as well. I still ran into a few snags, and it made me think about what I would want to share with somebody who's maybe trying this for the first time, or maybe somebody who's just looking to streamline the process, make it a little bit easier and a little bit more realistic. So in addition to sharing the specific meals that we ate and giving some specific meal ideas, I'm also going to share some strategies that I'm implementing for how to feed a crowd, how to do this without completely losing my mind or my sanity, and to still enjoy the process and the time that I have with everybody there. First off, know your space. And more importantly, how it's going to function for you to prepare a meal for a lot of people. When I'm preparing a meal for a lot of people, even in my own kitchen is not going to function the same way for preparing a lot of food as it does for when I'm preparing a meal just for my own family of 5. And a lot of us find ourselves cooking in other kitchens during the holidays. Maybe it's in another family member's kitchen, or maybe we have rented a vacation property for the holiday. That was the position that I found myself in, and I tried to, as soon as I arrived, familiarize myself with the kitchen and the amenities and the appliances that were available to me for preparing the meals. In this kitchen, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 coffee makers. I'm also counting 1, 2, 3, 4 blenders, at least 2 food processors that I can see. But what I do not have here is a slow cooker. If I had a slow cooker, I probably would have just thrown some chicken breast and some salsa and taco seasoning into a crock pot and let it cook low and slow all day, and then shred it up for us to have for protein, along with the seasoned ground beef that I'm getting ready to make up on the stove. So instead of the chicken, I opted for shrimp because I could buy shrimp frozen. I could marinate it in a little bit of olive oil and taco seasoning in the refrigerator for a few hours, and then toss it onto a sheet pan to go into the oven to cook. And I also decided I'd just throw a little bit of smoked sausage on there as well, just to give another protein option. And for our pescatarians, I also have some delicious refried beans. It's always a gamble whenever you're cooking in somebody else's kitchen, especially when you're cooking in like a vacation kitchen or maybe a little kitchenette in a hotel somewhere. So it has been very interesting trying to put this meal together. We're staying in a very nice house that is designed to host big families and big family reunions. So judging by the pictures and the look of this kitchen, I thought it would be very well stocked. But so far we have discovered that it is lacking cake pans, sheet pans, a stock pot, or any pot larger than 2 quarts, which means I can't like make big batches of pasta or rice or soup or anything else. It doesn't have any kind of mixer, like a hand mixer or a stand mixer, which again, if I'm staying in like a hotel or something, I would expect that, but this is like a really nice rental property. And right now I am having to very tediously open all the canned goods because the can opener does not work. I mean, it will puncture the can, but it won't roll around the can. So I'm having to just gradually go around the entire can. And I have like 5 or 6 cans at least to open for this meal tonight, so oh well, we're determined to get it done. Last week, I didn't have a very good set of knives to work with. I actually had my father-in-law trying to sharpen some of them for me. So I'm so happy to be back in my own kitchen today, working with the amenities that I know that I have. And I'm also delighted to be working today, speaking of knives, with Rada Cutlery, who is sponsoring today's video. Rada is a family-owned company that has been around for almost 75 years. And in fact, they manufacture right here in the heart of the USA from materials that are sourced from America. Since they opened their factory in 1948, right after rations on things like aluminum and steel were lifted from World War II, they have manufactured over 170 million high-quality knives. So I would think it speaks very highly to the quality of their products that they have been in business for nearly 3/4 of a century. Rada blades are crafted from surgical quality, high carbon stainless steel for a lifetime of durability and for super sharp blades, which make the cooking experience more enjoyable and, in my opinion, safer, because a lot of knife injuries occur when we're using low quality cutlery or dull blades. And because many of us are cooking and preparing food on the daily, Rada Cutlery and cookware can make a fantastic, practical, useful holiday gift. Plus, it comes with a lifetime guarantee, and they're offering a discount today for my viewers. When you visit the website in the description box or you go to radakitchenstore.com, use the code Mindy10 at checkout to get 10% off your entire order. That's Mindy10 for 10% off your entire order at radakitchenstore.com. I have a few different items from Rada, but what they recently sent me was their starter set, their knife starter set, and it includes a regular paring knife, which I'm actually in desperate need of. I only have one right now, a vegetable peeler, a tomato slicer, a super parer, which I have never heard of. I'm really excited to try that. I love me a good paring knife, a 6-inch bread knife, and those are serrated, which makes it great for that purpose, a cook's knife, and a slicer. But Rada offers more than just knives. They offer several other cookware products, and they even offer some spices, some seasonings, some marinades, and some mixes, which could make fantastic stocking stuffers if you are looking to help Santa out a little bit this year. To upgrade your kitchen with Rada's 100% American-made cutlery, visit that link in the description box or go to radakitchenstore.com, and don't forget to use the code Mindy10 for 10% off your purchase at checkout. And thank you again to Rada for sponsoring today's video. Now, you guys know how much I love to take a shortcut, and we are definitely going to use a few tonight, starting with this jar queso. I'm actually going to doctor this up by adding a few things to it. I'm gonna add a little bit of sour cream. I'm gonna add some shredded taco blend cheese that I picked up at Aldi. Actually, it was picked up for me because somebody else did my shopping. And I'm even gonna put in a little bit of the homemade pico that I made earlier, which you'll be hearing more about later. I'm just gonna stir that together on the stove over super low heat. Just keep it warm so that everybody can use this as a topping or along with their chips with dinner tonight. I ordered a couple boxes of this yellow rice from Aldi in my Instacart order, and the brand name that I know is Vigo. And it's just a Spanish style rice, so it's already seasoned. And I cooked that earlier today on the stove in 2 different pots, so that, since I didn't have a pot large enough to cook both boxes at the same time. And we're gonna doctor it up now a little bit and add a little bit more flavor. So I've got some diced peppers and some red onions sauteing here on the stove. And once those are done sauteing, I'm gonna add just a little bit of garlic and let it saute for about 60 seconds longer. And then I'm going to stir in my 2 boxes of cooked rice and also 1 can of diced green chilies, and just let that heat through all together on the stove to kind of make a flavorful side dish. I have 3 cans of refried beans here that I'm putting into my casserole dish. I did put them in a microwave safe bowl and heat them up in the microwave for just a few minutes to make them a little bit easier to stir. Because to this I'm adding about 1 cup of sour cream. And I'm going to stir those with the refried beans. Then I'll top them with some shredded cheese, and I'll cover this with foil, and I'll heat these up for about 30 minutes at 350 in the oven, or just until the beans are heated through. I'm doing it this way because I don't have any large pots to heat anything up in, and the skillets I am using to cook other things. So this is the way we're gonna make the refried beans tonight. It'll be fine. I am using the same trick for cooking my tortillas that I did in a recent video, where I actually rolled them up in a foil packet with a damp paper towel, and then I pop them into the oven for about 5 to 7 minutes. They steam. They're nice and soft still, but they're really hot for making the tacos. Highly recommend this way for heating up your tortillas if you've never tried it before. This next one is one that I struggle with, and I've actually mentioned this in a few other videos, but that is to, whether it's preparing the meal or cleaning up afterwards or doing the shopping or helping with the cost, accept help when it is offered or delegate where you need to. We have my sister-in-law, Kristen, who has graciously agreed to show us how to make guac because I don't care for guacamole. I don't like avocados. I know. I should like, you said that you didn't like them though until you were an adult, right?
I never had it till I was an adult, but I live in California and avocados are very popular in California.
So we have a 20-year California resident and a Texas native. I feel like there's no better person to teach us how to make homemade guac.
But weirdly, and Dad confirmed, we'd never had avocados growing up in Texas. Nope. And so I had to learn as an adult, and I learned from my aunt-in-law, my husband's aunt. And her husband, my uncle, is Mexican, and so she tells me that she learned from him, although I don't remember her telling me that 20 years ago when she taught me, but it's mostly avocado. She was very against much with it because you want the avocado to do everything for it.
Yeah, so no packets or anything like that.
Yeah, no packets. I couldn't even tell you measurements, but you can see how much avocado I put in.
That's like 5 or 6.
What do we do?
Because we've had our sous chef over there cutting the avocados. Yeah. Probably 6 or 7. Yeah, it's a big group.
And there's 3 ingredients you add. You add lime juice, you add salt, and I do love pink salt, so I'm happy that's what we purchased at the store. And then you add salsa, and I always add this brand because I've tried other, and this is just the one that really...
I love Pace Picante.
It's just pretty solid, and I've tried a few, and they're not as good. But this I make a lot for our group of friends. We have a little bubble group that we got really close with during the pandemic. They're like our only people we hung out with for a while. And every time we got together, they wanted me to make my guacamole, and they wanted me to share the recipe, but I have been told... no one can make it quite like I can, so
just 4 ingredients.
Probably because they want me to make it and not them. But
it's always the simplest things.
So then I always use a fork because you want to get it. You don't want it too chunky, but you also don't want it smooth. You don't want to use a blender. You got to use your hands for this. But I use the back of the fork and I just sort of blend it up, and then I just use a chip and I just taste until it's just right.
Start early and think ahead. If there is one thing that I have learned, is that people don't generally get kind of fussy about eating a meal early, but sometimes people do get a little bit anxious and maybe even a little bit snarky if dinner is late. So that's why I tend to try to start a little earlier and give myself more time than I think I'll need. And I think about what I can do earlier in the day to help prep the meal. We are in the refrigerator because I am grabbing the fresh pico de gallo that I made earlier today from chopped Roma tomatoes and jalapenos, some diced red onion, and then tossing it with lime juice, salt, and a little bit of cilantro. And it has been sitting in the refrigerator, getting all nice and flavorful in its own juices, and it's going to make a delicious garnish for the dinner tonight. I highly recommend making meals for a crowd bar style or build your own style, especially if you find yourself in a position where you need to feed a lot of different eating styles or preferences. In my family, we have children, we have adults, we have picky eaters, we have not so picky eaters, we have vegetarians, we have people who are trying to eat less dairy, etc., etc. So by preparing a couple of different proteins, maybe a few different starches, making the dairy and the toppings and other things you can add to the meal be garnishes, and laying it all out buffet or bar style, people can actually just go down the line and they can build their own plate according to what they would like to eat or what they prefer to eat. And this style of serving the meal allows me to accommodate a lot of different people and their dietary preferences. I am chopping up some fajita veggies right now because we are having a taco night, and I am throwing together lots of different things that people can use to create their own meal according to their tastes and their preferences. I am just gonna finish up chopping these bell peppers. I have green, yellow, orange, and red bell peppers, and I'm gonna toss those into a pan to roast later on along with some other veggies. And let me show you what else I'm doing to throw tonight's meal together. I just popped my shrimp and my smoked sausage into the oven. It is heating up at 400, so it is not gonna take long at all for that shrimp to cook through, and the smoked sausage is already cooked. So just waiting for the shrimp next to it to cook up. So now I'm just finishing up by browning 2 pounds of ground beef. I'm going to add in just some packet taco seasoning. My veggies are all roasting in the oven. My rice is heating up. My beans are heating up. My chips and salsa and queso and guac and pico are out and ready to go. So we're just about ready to plate all of this food up. I'm going to set it up in 2 different locations so that people can walk through one line and make their tacos or their taco plates with their proteins. And then on the countertop, I have all of the sides, the fixings for the tacos, like shredded lettuce, sour cream, and cheese. I have the chips and pico, all of that so that people can then load up their plates and just make it what they want it to be. We have a heated game going on over here. Who's winning, Brick?
Me.
You?
Yep. Barely. Who's in second, Brick? Her.
Aunt Kristen. Got a little wizard going on here. If you are looking for how to feed a crowd on a relatively tight budget, I would suggest thinking about how you are serving and specifically how to stretch the more expensive parts of the meal, namely the meat and the dairy. Soups, stews, and chilies are usually really great for this. In fact, I made a video last year where I fed 25 young adults from our church on just $100. And that included hors d'oeuvres, it included 3 different kinds of soup and all of the fixings and dessert, plus a salad bar and drinks. Other ways to stretch the more expensive ingredients might be to serve them as a topping for less expensive starches, you know, things like potatoes or pasta or rice. Ways that you can make a certain amount of shredded meat that people can top a baked potato with, or ways that you can incorporate it into a sauce that they would then put over pasta, or incorporating it into a breakfast bowl with hash browns. Basically, if you want to stay on a budget, it's going to be difficult to serve everybody their own steak, but that doesn't mean you can't create a really nice meal that still includes some of those more expensive or more luxury items. For more ideas on cooking for a large crowd on a budget, I'll leave some of the videos where I've done that before linked in the description box. We are celebrating 3 November birthdays tonight with some birthday brownies after dinner, but I also wanted to make up another little treat to go along with it, so I'm gonna make a Snickers apple salad. I'm currently chopping up 3 pounds of Gala apples. I started to peel the apples and then I realized I don't think I need to peel these. I think this will be just fine with the peels still on the apples. I'm just dicing them up into very small little pieces. And then I'm going to take 1 cup of milk and 2 packages of vanilla pudding mix. I'm going to mix that up. I know that that is less milk than you would normally use to make pudding, but it's really just to help dissolve the pudding powder, because then I'm going to stir in 2 8-ounce containers of whipped topping, Cool Whip. And then I'm going to toss the apples with the vanilla Cool Whip and top it with some chopped up Snicker bars and pop it into the refrigerator until we are ready to serve it. It's also supposed to have caramel sauce, but they were out at the store whenever I went, so I think it'll still be plenty delicious without the caramel sauce. But if you make it, maybe add a little drizzle of caramel sauce on the top. Let me know how it is. Even when I'm preparing a meal on a budget, I don't skimp on the fruits and vegetables. I still offer them, and I find that when I prepare like just a pan of plain roasted veggies, or maybe saute some green beans, or make up a fruit salad, or just put out a big bowl of fresh grapes, they are almost always gone with no leftovers. So that can be an affordable way that I can bulk up a meal, because I can look for those things on sale, or I can look for inexpensive frozen veggies that I can prepare and season very well and offer those alongside the meal as well. Like I said, I rarely have leftovers of those things, so obviously people still crave them even with the really festive or rich dishes that I might be making for a special meal. Another really great tip, especially when you are in charge of preparing multiple meals, or when there are just going to be multiple meals served at the gathering, is to figure out a way to utilize leftovers. Is there food available from previous meals that can be served alongside or utilized in the next meal? This is something I'm thinking as well. It's kind of like the cook once, eat twice thing. It makes a little bit less work. It means that I can use multiple ingredients across different meals and different dishes and recipes, and it also means that we're not letting very much go to waste. Tonight I am making breakfast for dinner, and again, I'm going to serve that bar style with all of the ingredients laid out so that everybody can make their plates according to their tastes and preferences. I have lots of eggs that I'm going to scramble up. I have some bacon and some sausage links. I'm going to cook that in the oven because I still feel like that's the easiest and most efficient way to make a lot of those things. And I specifically chose to do this meal on the second night because I knew that some of the things that I was utilizing in the first night's taco bar meal would be useful in this meal as well. So we have leftover tortillas, we have some leftover vegetables, we have things like salsa, sour cream, and cheese so that people can actually make their breakfast tacos or their breakfast plates from those items as well. So we can actually use those things up, and I've already done a lot of the prep work where that's concerned. I also recommend when you're making a meal plan for a crowd to keep it simple. Now is not the time to experiment with new recipes if you're not fairly certain how they're gonna turn out. And it's also not a time to be doing super tedious recipes whenever you're gonna have to prepare multiple portions of those things. So I would think about things that you already know how to make and are comfortable to make, that you know will be easy to double or triple the recipes. Or like I said before, ways that you can make ingredients and then allow people to make their own plates, just keeping it as simple as possible. Don't throw a lot of new skills or new recipes into the mix when you know you're gonna be spending some time and maybe just a little bit of stress getting a meal together for a lot of people. I'm going to be making 7-Up biscuits to go along with tonight's meal because first off, I knew that I wouldn't be working with a lot of pantry staples, so it's not like I can make biscuits from scratch. There probably isn't sugar and baking soda. We discovered as soon as we arrived here that they didn't even have salt. So I wanted to be able to utilize a shortcut ingredient like Bisquick, and these particular biscuits only have 4 ingredients. And since I am working with a limited kitchen, I knew that this would be an easy way to make something delicious for the breakfast dinner that I'm making tonight, where I wouldn't have to rely on the space having exactly what I needed since I'm not cooking in my own kitchen. Another really important thing to remember whenever you are cooking for a crowd is to be flexible. I am actually peeling apples right now, and I was going to make cinnamon apples, you know, where you peel the apples, dice them up, throw them in a skillet with some butter and some sugar and cinnamon. If you've ever eaten at Cracker Barrel, you probably know what I'm talking about. But this house, unfortunately, doesn't have a skillet large enough to do that. So I'm going to make apple crisp instead, because I do have a couple of baking dishes here, and I purchased Bisquick. I have sugar and cinnamon, so, and I have butter. So it's gonna be possible for me to do that instead, and I don't think anybody is going to complain about having apple crisp, a delicious dessert, instead of the cinnamon apples. You know what else makes it really easy to be flexible? Cheers. I'm just kidding. Full disclosure, I did in fact purchase orange juice so that we could have mimosas, but apparently the children discovered the orange juice and have already drunk it, so it's just champagne. I think I can manage that. For more large family meal ideas, be sure to check out the other videos I've left in the description box, especially if you want some specific recipes and ideas. And thank you again to Rada Cutlery for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to go and check them out. There's a link in the description box, or you can go to radakitchenstore.com and you can use my code Mindy10 for 10% off your order.